Carbon footprint is the total greenhouse gas emission caused by an individual, event, organization, service, or project, which estimates the amount of carbon dioxide or CO2 that is being produced. Now, big manufacturing companies such as Chevron are burning fossil fuels and are expressed as a weight of CO2 emission produced in tons. Specifically, gases such as methane, nitrous oxide, and some fluorocarbons are being produced during operation. These manufacturing companies have unique energy needs, relying on natural gases, petroleum, other liquids, electricity, and coal, which make up the energy required to operate, heat, and cool these manufacturing buildings. Now, according to an article found by the U.S. Energy Information Administration, states that in 2019, about 46% of U.S. energy-related CO2 emission came from burning petroleum fuels. That of 33% came from burning natural gases, and 21% was found to come from burning coal. Now, these residential and commercial sectors actually have lower CO2 emission levels than that of transportation sectors and the industrial sector, meaning that the leading cause of CO2 emission levels are coming from big manufacturing companies. Now, hundreds of companies in the world have been responsible for an estimate of 71% of the global GHG emission that has been the cause of global warming since 1998. Now, the Carbon Major Database has recently been shedding light on how companies and investors play a role in climate change, which more information can be found on the Carbon Disclosure Project, or the CDP. As reported by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, states that carbon emission from fossil fuels has significantly increased since the 1900s, which, according to this, since 1970, carbon emission has increased about 90%, with emission from fossil fuels, combustion, and industrial process contributing to about 78% of the total greenhouse gas emission, which has been increased since 1970 to 2011, which, in other words, states that the CO2 emission has only been rising and will continue to rise if nothing is changed. With the production of the amount of CO2 emission that is being produced, this is getting to our clean air and causes an invisible layer around the earth, which then this layer keeps the heat inside, so to say, and then leads to global warming. This process is also called the greenhouse effect, which research found from Life Science article states that how reducing greenhouse gas emission could possibly prevent premature deaths. Reducing the flow of greenhouse gases that splur around global warming could prevent up to 3 million premature deaths annually by the year 2100. Now, greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide trap heat, helping warm the globe. Now, CO2 emissions is actually a major problem that is being kept under the rug, which should be talked about more often because it is actually affecting us more than we think. Now, a study finds that according to Carbon Brief Clear on Climate, states that an additional 290 million people could face malnutrition by 2050 if little is done to stop the rise of greenhouse gas emission. An increased presence of CO2 in the atmosphere could cause staple crops to produce smaller amounts of nutrients such as zinc, iron, and protein. Now, researchers have found that if companies continue to extract fossil fuels at the rate that they have been doing for the past 28 years, it could estimate that the global average temperature will rise by up to 4 degrees Celsius. This will then result in the possible extinction of a multitude of species and seriously threaten the world's food production. Now, many experts agree that taxing carbon to regulate emissions is the most economically efficient approach to achieve reduction and meet environmental goals, which companies are a big cause of CO2 emission, which is actually harming many individuals, including the planet that we live in. Now, by taxing companies, there could be a possible decrease in CO2 emission, which can be beneficial for us and the planet. Now, companies are now understanding how this is actually affecting us on the earth and us, and they are willing and ready to make a change. By adopting a tax, this will also motivate companies to switch to a more eco-friendly process of energy. Secondly, this will also allow industries to find a more cost-effective ways to reduce carbon emission. Now, we have been living on this earth for hundreds of years now, and with recent advances, we are slowly destroying our planet. It is now up to us to help keep this earth the way we live in sustainable for life. By adopting a strict carbon tax upon companies, this will not end climate change, nor will it stop global warming overnight. But it is a start to a better future for our planet, and making this change will certainly achieve a better climate for ourselves.